In September 2022, the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges released a devastating report on the state of the NHS. The report blew the lid off the reality of devastatingly long waiting times and problems accessing services. One of the pages details the story of David, an 87-year-old prostate cancer sufferer, a man who tripped over in his own backyard, fracturing his ribs and pelvis. NHS call handlers told his family not to move him until an ambulance arrived. He lay on the cold concrete for 15 hours, his family trying to keep him warm by building a makeshift tent around him. Other stories in the report detail the loss of life by people suffering from chronic conditions, yet still having difficulty accessing the care that they needed. The British Heart Foundation released this stunning graphic which shows how the number of patients waiting for heart procedures for over a year in the UK has increased because of pressures put on the health service by the pandemic. But while doctors and nurses are struggling to cope and patients continue to suffer, the internet morons and conspiracy theorists decide to pretend the pandemic never happened and it had no long-term effects. And they come up with their own fairy tale reasons that, in their own closed-minded, ignorant world, might explain why we're suffering some excess deaths right now. So what the world is in desperate need of right now is a little bit of common sense. Maybe some highly trained medical professionals taking social media by storm to educate the world and lift us all to that next level of understanding. Unfortunately, it appears that just when the time comes that we need a Superman, we get a Frank Spencer. Now, if you think that clip was sad and outdated and uncool, then don't worry, because what you're about to see is going to make it look as though that clip could have been written by the combined minds of Shakespeare and Einstein themselves.
I've made dozens of videos and written about why the evidence for disease-causing particles termed viruses is lacking.
Yes, welcome to, and I can't still even believe I'm going to say this, welcome to medical doctor and virus denier, Dr. Samantha Bailey. Those of you in New Zealand might recognise Sam Bailey as being one of the hosts of the TV programme The Checkup on the TVNZ network. Now, because I live in the UK, I can't access those full episodes, but the bits that I have found on YouTube look pretty good.
Smallpox was once one of the most feared diseases in the world, killing 3 out of 10 people that caught it. But, thanks to a global vaccination program, in 1980, the World Health Organization was able to declare that smallpox had been wiped out.
So how did Sam Bailey go from helping make TV programmes at raves about vaccination programmes against viral diseases to ultimately denying the existence of viruses altogether? Now, I don't know, but what I do know is that her influence now reaches far and wide, with her YouTube channel having amassed over a whopping 300,000 subscribers. Fascinating stuff. Now, just like finding a dog turd on the pavement, finding evidence of virus deniers isn't really that new. The issue is today that social media allows us to take that dog turd and literally wipe it across the face of millions of people. And I've got to wonder whether these modern social media Luddites are influenced by people like this, Dr. Robert Wilner, who also had poo on his face. In the mid-1990s, at the height of the fear and the panic surrounding the spread of HIV and AIDS across the globe, Robert Wilner decided to do something rather, how should we put it, special.
This is for the sake of humanity and no other reason. And this is in the hope that it'll save the lives of millions of individuals who will die because of the greatest lie ever told.
Now, if you hadn't picked up on what was happening though, Wilner had pricked his own skin with a needle that had just been used to draw blood from the HIV patient next to him. He was a complete virus denier. He was also quoted as saying this: "I am convinced you can prevent all disease with diet, lifestyle changes and sanitation." Yeah, he said that. Well done. Oh, yeah. Anyway, less than 5 months later, Wilner was dead. So there. Now, to be fair, he did die of a heart attack. But when you look online, you can find countless studies like this one here that look at the percentage chance of somebody contracting HIV from some kind of accidental jab from a used needle. And we find actually that the chance of contracting HIV in that way is less than a fraction of a percent. Now, that kind of renders what Wilner did as a pretty pathetic, useless, stupid stunt. Now, for some, the stain that Wilner left on science and virology can never be wiped away. And I'm not saying that this is what influenced Sam Bailey, but what I am saying is I do get comments quoting Wilner by people in my own comment section who are, how can I be kind, resourceful enough to use the space in their head for things other than intelligent thought. Yeah, I think that does it. Like this guy. Hello, can you prove Virusus X or Y exists? Yeah, it's not the best start, is it? But his comment does improve as you read on, and that's mainly due obviously to the fact that it literally couldn't have got worse. And I am a little bit more swayed by his amazing argument of, have a look at some pictures, come on dude, adverts. These are not proofs, indeed. What a mind. Anyway, Sam Bailey has been kind enough to take some of the reasons that she doesn't believe in viruses for us and put them all together in the same video. I will warn you that if you are expecting something semi-literate, mature and adult from a highly qualified medical doctor, you will be sorely disappointed. But let's watch anyway.
What is a virus? The word virus derives from the Latin word virus, which simply means poison. So viruses are supposed to be bad guys. Like unicorns, many people talk about viruses, but no one has ever seen one in nature.
Yeah, this is the level that a qualified medical doctor is going to communicate with us on.
There are sick people. There are times when people in one area get sick together. There are tiny particles everywhere. There are images of cells breaking down and vesicles. There are indirect techniques like the PCR and genomic sequencing. None of these things require the existence of viruses.
And she was a TV doctor. It blows her mind, doesn't it? But if she doesn't believe viruses exist, then what does she think they are?
Viruses are part of the human imagination. This is Russian botanist Dmitry Ivanovsky. History books say that he discovered viruses in 1892. He performed experiments with supposed infected sap to show that tobacco mosaic disease could be transferred between plants. He used very fine filters that stopped bacteria and fungi, and due to germ theory mania, concluded that an even smaller microorganism must be responsible.
And funnily enough, you know, biology students up and down the country at undergraduate level and even at A level are inoculating plants themselves with tobacco mosaic virus. It's not some kind of secret or hidden activity. It's done in places of education. I did it myself over 20 years ago when I did my master's degree. And sorry, what was that? Oh, that is very kind of you. No, but I am old enough to have done a master's degree over 20 years ago. Yeah, I know it. Oh, please. Anyway, you can even go online yourself and buy your own tobacco mosaic virus infectivity assay kits. You can do that yourself, and you can inoculate plants yourself with tobacco mosaic virus. Anybody can do it. Now, when we did this at university, obviously we inoculated a plant and it developed the symptoms. We could then take the leaf of that plant and we could mash it into some kind of paste and put it on leaves of other healthy plants and watch that they will start to show symptoms of tobacco mosaic virus. And of course, we used a control. We would mash up the leaves of healthy plants and put them on other plants. And we would see that that wouldn't result in the transmission of the disease. It was all fairly simple stuff. But Sam Bailey decides to stick a head in the ground and ride that denial train all the way to Numptyville.
There's just a few problems. Grinding up lots of sick plants and putting the concentrated juice on another plant after damaging its leaves to make it sick doesn't prove you have a virus. Tobacco mosaic disease is not a viral infection. It's what happens when plants are inbred, malnourished, grown in unsuitable conditions, artificially damaged or attacked by insects.
Yeah, of course it is, Sam. Fantastic stuff. Nothing like absolute denial delivered with a smile to fool absolutely nobody. Well, I say nobody. Yeah, it seems that Andre Cousin has taken a break from thinking for himself to climb on board the crazy train too. Thank you, Dr. Sam. If only every medical doctor had as much expertise and common sense as you. I love you. Andre, let me break it to you, buddy. If every medical doctor thought like Sam Bailey, not only would life expectancy have dropped below 30 years old, but you will be so riddled with infection, you will be sat there scratching your head trying to remember the last time you had a poop that didn't have the consistency of warm soup. Now, at its best, Dr. Sam's comment section is like some mass celebration of her complete and utter ignorance. But at its worst, it contains people willing to dish out medical information themselves. And somebody who's about to benefit from some of that advice is Byron Smith, who clearly isn't 100% down the rabbit hole just yet. Not at least judging by his comment where he says he's still not 100% sure that viruses don't exist. He even has the audacity to suggest that something must be causing disease. And if we are sequencing the genome of something, then what is it we're sequencing? Is it all made up? Well, they are good questions, Byron, and I'm glad you're not completely down the rabbit hole yet. Unfortunately for you, I know the help that you're about to receive is going to be about as useful as the brown end of a toilet brush when you want to baste your turkey on Christmas Day. You see, here to save the day is scientific expert Jill Turner. Oh, let me. I'm Jill Turner, and I know exactly what to say in this situation. First of all, does a single pathogen have to be the cause? There are many influences that make us sick. Look, listen to these. We are attacked from every angle in our food, water, what else? Electromagnetic fields, blue light. Yeah, I'm going to say that. It's endless. List is endless. I hope I helped. I think I did. I think what I said there was quite spectacular. But it's anything but viruses. Just remember that. So while the comment section are exchanging scientific illiteracies that make a numb blush and patting themselves on the back for their own ignorance, Dr. Sam Bailey continues her video in a patronising tone of voice as if she was speaking to a toddler and had been told not to use any big words.
What's making me sick then? This is a sick person. His doctor doesn't know what is wrong with him, so says it is a viral illness. The doctor was told by another doctor that people who are sick in this way have a viral illness. No viruses have ever been found in a person who is sick in this way, but appointment times are short and people need to be paid. This is people getting sick together simultaneously. Due to indoctrination and groupthink, many people believe that the only way this can happen is if a virus is passing between them. Many people got sick together in Chernobyl in 1986, and no, it wasn't a radioactive virus.
You know, I have dealt with levels of stupidity in my videos before, but none that have been delivered so passionately by somebody so ignorant and wrong. It really is hard to swallow. Let's just have a dose of common sense. Now, if you don't think viruses exist, firstly, go and give your head a wobble, preferably until it falls off. Secondly, give your head another wobble and then go and learn about genetic modification and the role of these viruses here in producing genetically modified crops. Or maybe you struggle to research GM crops because when it comes to Google, GM crops, you didn't know how to spell GM. Or maybe you could go and read a scientific paper such as this one, which tells you how the SARS-CoV-2 virus was isolated. If that doesn't take your fancy, maybe read this one, which tells you how the SARS-CoV-2 virus was isolated. If that doesn't take your fancy, maybe try this one, which tells you, you guessed it, how the SARS-CoV-2 virus was isolated. Or this one, which tells you how the SARS-CoV-2 virus is isolated. Or this one, which tells you how the SARS-CoV-2 virus was not only isolated, but also genetically sequenced. Now, if you don't believe in viruses, I need to tell you right now that you're not looking into the mirror. That's a monkey. But on the left are some electron microscope images of, you've guessed it, a virus. Now, you probably need some help with some of the bigger words, but you can read all about how they got that virus out of that monkey right here. If you don't believe in viruses, you might want to ask yourself why people have simply suddenly stopped bothering getting smallpox. Oh, and also why the dramatic drop in cases corresponded with a well-timed vaccination programme. If you don't believe in viruses, you might want to look at data like this for a whole range of countries and ask yourself why the unvaccinated are dying at a far greater rate from the same symptoms as vaccinated people. Could it be that the vaccine itself doesn't have anything to do with viruses, but is some kind of magical, life-giving gel that's made out of plaited unicorn piss? But most importantly, if you don't believe in viruses, the best things you can do is realise that you're a fucking imbecile. Sit down, shut up, and let the adults get on with things. Right, now that's done with, let's get back to Dr. Sam and find out what her explanation is for the reason that people get sick together, you know, like in a pandemic.
There are many common factors that people in one place can share, such as the same water and food sources, the same air quality, similar sun exposure and vitamin D levels, shared psychological stressors, changes in atmospheric conditions, and forces that we don't understand.
Well, first of all, let us not ignore the forces that we do not understand comment. I thought that was excellent. Very much like what a flat earther would say. You must be very proud of that one. Secondly, food, air quality, water quality, exposure to sunlight, stresses. None of these things do I have in common with people, let's say, who live in China. I don't drink the same water, eat the same food, share the same stresses, get exposed to the same amount of sunlight. Yet, it seems that the symptoms of the pandemic where I live are exactly the same as the symptoms of the pandemic in China. It's almost as if you're talking utter shite, Sam. But still, Sam's videos get thousands and thousands of views. So how can we shed a light on the credibility or lack of credibility that Dr. Sam Bailey has to maybe help her subscribers snap out of the hypnosis they're under? I don't know. Now, floating around online, we can find this document from the High Court of New Zealand. This details what happened in a hearing in the 17th of November 2021. This hearing was brought by Samantha Bailey, and it was to ask for a review into disciplinary proceedings that were being brought against her by the New Zealand Medical Council. It does say early on in this document, and this will be important later on, that she hasn't held a practicing certificate since May 2021. So about five months before the hearing, she hadn't had a practicing license, but she had been continuing to produce content on YouTube. Now, the General Medical Council had been receiving notifications about her content and complaints from other medical professionals. These complaints centered around the areas that essentially she was propagating misinformation about COVID-19 and whether propagating that misinformation in her videos online actually constituted practicing medicine without a valid license. It turns out that Dr. Bailey didn't really engage too much with the investigation. It seems that she felt that her producing videos online was actually just her right to free speech, and it wasn't in any way, shape or form practicing medicine. Now, I'm not a lawyer. The closest I can come to relating to this is that as a teacher in the UK, you have to be a member of the General Teaching Council, and if you're a member of the General Teaching Council, then although you have your own rights to free speech, you are obviously open to disciplinary proceedings should you do or say anything that brings the General Teaching Council into disrepute. This is how I understand it, but I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to say any more about that. Anyway, it turns out that the judge was pretty nonplussed with the evidence that Sam Bailey brought and decided that the judge was going to reject Sam's application on the basis of having the information before them. They would only go on to award costs anyway in favour of the council. Sam was never going to win. So it looks like Dr. Sam won't be practicing medicine again, which is obviously a real blessing, but it doesn't change the fact that she's still able to cause a lot of damage by building up an army of loyal and lost supporters who, let's face it, probably in their everyday life struggle to tell the difference between the sharp end of a pencil and a spoon. How do we protect these vulnerable people who kind of find a support network in the face of faceless comments on a computer screen, left by other equally lost people? This will be the subject of my next video. The harm that social media can do in reinforcing essentially what are delusions and causing people to be separated from their own lives. And that's going to take a little bit of work, but I'm getting through that one. Until then, Sam Bailey, I'm sure, will continue to pump out misinformation at a regular rate. Here she is discussing some shit with Dr. Tom Cowan, who not only also believes viruses don't cause disease, but he's taken the whole stupid train to the very next station and decided that the heart does not pump blood around the body. But let's not leave out Dr. Andrew Kaufman.
Today I'm going to be talking to you about Cox.
Yes, Cox postulates, I believe the conversation was. So, Cowan, Kaufman and Bailey coming together like the three musketeers of incompetence and doing a great job at it. I do often get asked by virus deniers in my comments section who think they're getting one over on me, why do I not debate Thomas Cowan or Andrew Kaufman? And I'm sure after this video, why do I not debate Samantha Bailey? Well, here's my answer to you. Set it up. Go out there, contact these people, set it up, and you will see how quickly, how swiftly, and how thoroughly they decline the offer. Go and do it. Bye.